Today we're going to find out how to give up our bad habits. First of all, we've talked about 10, I think, different bad habits. Now this obviously is not all the bad habits that you can have in the world, but these are some of the really common ones, and I'm pretty sure all of us have had one of these habits, or all of these habits at one time in our lives, except for Bill. So I'm going to read these out, and I want y'all to think as I'm reading them about which ones you feel like really apply to you, and maybe pick one that you want to take and work on. You don't have to tell us about it, just keep it yourself, unless you want to. Okay, bitterness, apathy, discouragement, judging others, envy, blaming others, self-pity, running away from your problems, and pettiness. First of all, what do all of these habits have in common?
They're negative. There's nothing positive
They're
about
negative,
them.
yes. What's their focus?
Me.
Right. Me, myself, and I. That's the focus of every one of these. So, what happens when you focus on yourself? It blinds you to people around you. It diminishes your relationship with other people. And more importantly, it comes between you and God, doesn't it? Because you have this attitude, it's all about me. Why is everything happening to me? You got to focus on something outside yourself. Our scripture today is a story that we have known from our childhood. We even sang about him. Zacchaeus, the tax collector. Luke 19. Jesus entered Jericho and was passing through. A man was there by the name of Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector and was wealthy. He wanted to see who Jesus was, but being a short man, he could not because of the crowd. So he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore fig tree to see him, since Jesus was coming that way. When Jesus reached the spot, he looked up and said to him, "Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I must stay at your house today." So he came down at once and welcomed him gladly. All the people saw this and began to mutter, "He has gone to be the guest of a sinner." But Zacchaeus stood up and said to the Lord, "Look, Lord, here and now I give half of my possessions to the poor. And if I have cheated anybody out of anything, I will pay back 4 times the amount." Jesus said to him, "Today salvation has come to this house, because this man too is a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek and to save what was lost." Okay, you're probably wondering what in the world this has to do with your bad habits. Well, during this time, tax collectors were despised for many reasons. They came and collected taxes, but they could also collect more than the taxes, and they could take that money and that was theirs, which was wrong, but it was okay. It was okay for them to do that. So Zacchaeus, we're told he was wealthy, but he wanted to see Jesus. He was curious about Jesus. He'd heard about him probably, obviously, and he thought, well, you know, this man has something going for him. I wonder what it is. So he went to a lot of trouble to see him in person, hear him. And he discovered that from hearing Jesus' teachings that, you know, maybe I'm doing something kind of wrong here. This was his bad habit. He was collecting more money than he was supposed to get. And he took this money for himself. So what does he do? When he meets with Jesus and he hears him talk and everything, he recognizes this habit. So he decides, I'm going to stop this. So he turns around and he starts giving all this money back that he'd been taking over the years. He exchanged a bad habit for a good habit. So that's what we have to do. But there's more to it than that. How do you break a bad habit? First of all, you've got to take ownership of this habit. You have to look at this habit and name it for what it is. By taking ownership, it's yours exclusively. Okay, you can take this little thing and run with it, or you can break it. When you take ownership of it, you're responsible for it. It's yours. If it owns you, it has control over you. If you own it, you have control over it, right? So you have to you can't just look at this habit and think, well, you know, I don't really, it's not bothering anybody. But you have to own it. It's yours. It's this little thing that you own. And you have an option. You can either take it and nurture it and look at it every day and, you know, it's not so bad. It's like a little cute puppy. I'll just take it out and play with it every day. And then one day, you take it out and you look at it and it's grown fangs. It's not this cute little habit anymore. It's turned into a monster. So you got to recognize it for what it is and make up your mind to stop it. Well, as I said, you have two options when you take ownership of it. You can either take it and nurture it and let it grow, where you have control of it, or you can look at it for what it is and realize that, you know, this thing can turn on me and take control of me. I will lose ownership to this habit. It will become all-encompassing. It will destroy me. So you can either keep it and nurture it, or you can cut it off. You can nip it in the bud. You can prune it. You can lop it off. You can kill this habit. So how do you do this? Well, first of all, you have a lifeline. What's your lifeline?
God.
Yeah. First of all, you want to break this habit. You've got to have the determination to break this habit. So you go to God. You pray about it and ask Him to help you. Well, you've got to make up your mind to stop it now. Not just kind of, I'll just do this once a week. Or I'll do this, you know. I'll gradually give up this habit. No. You got to do it immediately. And the only way you can do it immediately is to go to God and help Him. Ask Him to help you. Now you'll notice in the Zacchaeus story, that's exactly what Zacchaeus did. He immediately gave up his habit. But that's kind of hard to do, isn't it? When the alcoholics have to go cold turkey, and some of these habits may not sound as bad as alcoholism or drugs or whatever, but if you go cold turkey, you make this decision and you stick to it. You have a choice. We all have choices. So Zacchaeus must have realized that, you know, here he was. And we don't know how old he was. He'd probably been collecting all this money for a long time and everything. But he probably thought, well, you know, my time's wasted. I better do something. I better do it now. But so he did. Now some of these habits are maybe not as extreme as that. Maybe they seem like little things, but as we know, little things can grow. If you lie, the lies grow. Mm-hmm. And it affects other people. All of these habits we talked about are self-centered, and you think it's all about us. But they have little tentacles that reach out and affect everybody else, right? Mm-hmm. So Zacchaeus decided, yeah, I'm going to stop it right now. So he did. How did he do it? Replacing it with a good habit. We have a little story here that's kind of cute about replacing bad things with good things. The guy that wrote this book, he's a minister, and he was visiting a home of one of his parishioners one day and talking with this young mother who lived there. He said it was a big fancy home and everything, you know. And her baby was just a few months old. It was on the floor crawling around, you know. And he just happened to look down there, and he saw that the baby found the dog's bone under the sofa and started gnawing on it. Well, he thought, oh my gosh, you know, am I supposed to tell this lady their dog or kids gnawing on a dog bone? He was appalled. He didn't know what to do. But so he finally did. He said, you know, you better do something about this child. So she took the bone away from the baby, mm-hmm. but she replaced it with a clean teething ring. Mm-hmm. And he says the baby never missed a chomp. Mm-hmm. So you can't just take something away and leave a vacuum. You have to replace the bad thing with something good. So when Zacchaeus turned over the money to the poor, he said he would pay back 4 times as much. Greed had been taken away from him in this moment, and generosity had been put in its place. Mm. So this is essential to getting rid of a bad habit. We have to call it by name. We have to take ownership of it and make up our minds to stop it and to replace it with a good one. So let's go back through our little list again. And how can we replace some of these bad habits with good habits? Bitterness. What's something good that we could replace for bitterness?
Do something kind.
Yes. Yes.
Or not thinking of the word, but optimism.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of the opposite.
How about apathy?
Do something.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Discouragement.
Encourage someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Look for the silver linings.
Yes. Judging others. How about learning to know these people? Before we label somebody or some group, how about we take the time to get to know them, get to know their problems. Mm-hmm. On the case of a group, don't label people. Mm-hmm. See them as individual human beings, just like we are. Do you want to be labeled? Do you want to be called something that's not true? Do you want to be, look at these people, that they're part of this church, that means they're bad.
Mm-hmm. And self-reflection.
Yes. Put yourself in other people's place before you start judging them. How about envy?
Contentment.
Count your blessings that you have right now.
Exactly. Yes. How about blaming others for something you've done, or trying to cover your tracks.
Taking responsibility.
Yeah. Self-pity.
Woe is me.
Pity on others. I mean, that's not pity, but reaching out, helping them.
Be thankful.
Yes. That's kind of up there with envy. I think envy kind of causes self-pity. They kind of go together too. Count your blessings. How about running away from your problems?
Face them.
Mm-hmm.
Face one at a time, too.
Yes.
I read a book that suggested that you eat one frog a day. And the image is that we have little things, and they're like these little teeny frogs that sit on our desk. You're supposed to eat it, but you don't want to eat it, and so you just let it kind of sit there, and pretty soon, there's more frogs on your plate or desk or whatever. But now the frogs have gotten bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So the idea is just eat the frog. Just eat a frog and get it over with. Do the thing that you don't want to do.
Well, that's true. I mean, you got to do it eventually, and you can't just keep putting it off. How about pettiness? We talked about that last week.
So yeah, I think reflecting on or understanding someone else is a good one for that one. And realizing that it's not all about you.
Right. That's what all of these habits have in common, is we think it's all about us. And if we reach out to others and lead the life we've been taught through the Bible to lead, following Christ's footsteps, as we've been talking at Bible study, He leads us and we follow Him. And if we aspire to do what He tells us to do, we're not going to be thinking about ourselves all the time. We're going to be reaching out to other people. We're going to be helping other people. On your little scale of things to worry about, you should be on the bottom. But are we? No, we want to be number one.
Most.
Well, people, that's not what we're taught in the Bible. And that's not what God wants us to be. So when we concentrate on ourselves and our little bad habits, we take these little habits and we look at them. Oh, they're so cute. Let's just go and keep this. Because it's mine. That's why God gives us a choice. And then when we wake up one day and we see this little habit, it's turned into this little teeth are coming out. And it's scary. And it's like, ooh, maybe it's going to control me and I've lost control of it. We talked about our lifeline. There's a story in here about this man that he was born in Wales and he served in the Queen's Navy before he came to America to become a Methodist minister. He was proud to be in the Royal Navy, and he was doubly proud when he was named captain of the HMS Switha. He was the ship's captain and he wanted so much to impress his crew. He wanted his men to know how wise he was and how brave he was. So one of their first assignments was to go out and check the anchors holding the buoys in place. The only way to do this was to send down a deep sea diver. So the first mate told him, now whether this was really true or he was just trying to get the man to go, I don't know. The first mate told him that his predecessor, the beloved former captain, always liked to go down first. Would he like this privilege as well? Well, he'd never done any deep sea diving. He'd never worn one of those special suits. He didn't know the first thing about it. But he wasn't about to let this former captain be lauded for it, and he'd just turn out to be a chicken or something. So he said, okay, I'll do it. I wouldn't have it any other way. Well, he was scared to death, but he was acting proud. So he put on these leaded shoes, this heavy suit, these thick gloves. He locked on this helmet and closed the little window in the helmet. He was afraid. All these unfamiliar sounds, eerie sounds, the claustrophobia, the queasiness. It was too late to back out now. So he jumped overboard and went down to the ocean floor. Well, at first the water was really pretty. It was blue and clear. Then it got greenish. Then it got gray. Then it was black. He hit the bottom. And his heavy shoes, he was sinking deep into the mud. And he felt really awkward. And it dawned on him, well, I don't know how to walk in these shoes. I don't know how to walk on this ocean floor. So he panicked and fell forward, face down in the mud. And as he fell, he lost his lifeline. And then he remembered that they had told him earlier, whatever you do, Captain, don't let go of this. If you need help, just give her a tug. Well, here he is, lying on the bottom of the ocean floor with no lifeline. He was stuck. He couldn't move. He had on I don't know how many pounds of all this stuff, and of course as it got wet, it got heavier. So he thought, well, this is it. I'm going to die. All because of my arrogant pride and my stupidity. So he decided, okay, this is it. I'll just die in peace. And then he felt this gentle touch on his shoulder. Help had come from above. The crew sensed that he lost his lifeline. They'd probably been watching every bit of this, So one of the men who was an experienced diver came down to save him. Pick him up, got him unstuck from the mud, gave him back his little lifeline, and showed him how to walk and survive on the ocean floor. Help had come from above to give him a new chance, a new beginning, a new life. So he was now ready to swallow his pride and confess his need for help. He had enough humility and trust to learn from an expert. So isn't this what Christ is? He's our lifeline. He's there to help us. He's going to let us do it on our own. But he's always there to pick us up off the ocean floor and bring us to safety, right? All we have to do is ask him. So let's do some questions here. What value do you see in recognizing a bad habit and owning it and calling it by name?
If you recognize it, it gives you the opportunity to correct it.
Yeah. That's right.
Because if it's just, we do, it's just, that's just kind of part of who I am and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not something that has to change. It's just something that.
It's just part of me.
It's just part of me. Yeah. Narcissists have a hard time with that because it's, oh no, I can't change because this is me.
That's right.
And I'd have to admit that I was wrong if I did.
And no, we don't like to admit we're wrong, do we?
No.
But we're only human. What role does choice play in ending a bad habit?
You have to want to do it to begin
Mhm.
with.
Yeah, yeah.
You have to choose to do it.
So what feelings or thoughts do you have about making up your mind to stop a bad habit right now instead of gradually easing out of it? Do you think?
Eliminate your excuses.
Yeah, it does. Do you think this is easy or difficult to stop it now?
But it gets easier.
If you gradually ease out of it, you can gradually go back
It's
to
easy
it,
to do it.
can't you? But if you stop now, I think you're probably less apt to. It's going to be a struggle either way, right?
And looking at the 12 steps, you brought up alcoholism.
Mhm.
I mean, there's some great strength in that because
Yeah.
it's all about ownership. It's
Mhm.
about that commitment and having a community and having some accountability and to say to people, yeah, I have this problem, help me.
Mm-hmm.
If you see me doing this, help me.
That's right. And we all have a support group. We have our church, we have our friends, we have our family. Now, these are not probably life-threatening habits here. I mean, we're not talking about giving up bank robbery or something like that. But these little things like this, we know can mushroom and grow and affect our lives and other people's lives around us. So how do you respond to the strategy and wisdom of replacing a bad habit with a good habit?
Makes sense.
Well, it certainly would make it easier
Yeah.
to give up the bad habit if you've got something good in the
That's right.
in the offing
You
there.
get a little prize.
Yeah.
That's true.
And it also occurs to me that you have to kind of they need to be connected in some way. So like the baby who was chewing on the like the baby had a need. I want to chew on something.
That's right.
And so the mom was very wise to take this away, but then give the baby something else that feeds that need. And maybe looking at that, what is my need for, or what is my need behind this envy? I need to feel better than other people, or whatever it is. And then, so what's that good habit that you can, if there's a good need there, how do you feed that, continue to feed that need in a way that is good as opposed to that's self-destructive?
So, for instance, if envy is your bad habit, anytime you start to get envious, if you think, "But look at what I have,"
Right.
You immediately decide what you're going to replace this with. So when you start going to the bad place, you immediately start thinking about the good thing. So how do you experience God's presence and power as you seek to eliminate bad habits?
Do a lot of praying.
Yeah, that's right.
And that lifeline, just Lord help.
Yeah.
I want to do this thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to read these over again. Now, like I said, these are just a few of our bad habits. And we may not do any of these now, but I guarantee you've probably done them in the past at some point in time. And there are worse habits than these, but if this is controlling your life, you got to get rid of it. Bitterness, apathy, discouragement, judging others, envy, blaming others, self-pity, running away from your problems, and pettiness. Your good habits should be like, you don't even think about it. You just do it. just like brushing your teeth every day. That's a habit. It's a good habit. But you should just automatically run with your good habits. You need to make your good habits your own. You need to own them. Encourage them to grow instead of using your bad habits to grow. Because I'm pretty sure that our good habits are not all about me, myself, and I. Right? We need to learn to give of ourselves and quit concentrating on ourselves. Right? Like Zacchaeus. He had been looking for number one. Oh, look at all this money I can get. And then after following Jesus, he discovered that, well, you know, I've been selfish. So he gave back. These habits are bad habits that concentrate on me, myself, and I. They're selfish. And not only are they hurting others, they're hurting you too. So it's time to give them up. Any questions?
I just had a thought. This is a lesson that should be taught to children because they can develop these skills.
That is a wonderful, there's another little story in here. I can find it.
I mean, even your young man that you're working with, this would be a perfect age for them.
Absolutely.
Okay, we talked about choosing. A woman once asked her minister, "How early shall I teach my child religious habits?" And he said, "How old is your child?" And she said, 3. And the minister responded, "Hurry home, woman, hurry home. You're 4 years late already." So that's why, and we talked about, I think one of our lessons, children, I mean, they're little sponges, you know, and they look at us and how we act and how we do, and who we persecute and who we don't. They see all of these bad habits. Do you want them to develop those themselves? Or do you want to straighten up and give them good examples to follow? I mean, even though we don't have children or grandchildren or children in our lives, children are everywhere, and they're looking up to us. They're looking at us. They're watching what we do or say. So we're examples in all walks of life. We're examples of professing to be Christians. Do we act like Christians all the time? No. We're examples to everybody we meet. So it's time to think about these ugly little habits you have and don't let them grow. Make them good and let them grow. Any questions?
Off of that, a quick comment that I think of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. There are hardly any children in that show, but he absolutely modeled, this is how you interact with other people. And there's a show that's out now, it's Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, which is kind of the next step, or, you know, like sort of a resurgence of that. And one thing that's really strong, it's about little kids primarily, and which is very much kind of in the line of other stuff that kids are watching. But one thing I really enjoy about it is that the parents, it models how the parents talk and their interactions, and they do really well at sometimes parents get frustrated, right? And how, yeah, right. And how did they deal with that? And so, you know, sitting there as a parent and go, oh, okay, thank you. That's helpful to hear that. Yeah, that's but that modeling.
Any more questions? Let us pray. Dear God, thank you for the many good habits we have that outnumber our bad habits. Help us to replace the bad with the good. Encourage us and help us to take positive action to make a positive change in behavior. Give us patience to go forward and help us when we fall. Show us that we can give up bad habits with your help. Amen. So your homework for next week is to reflect on good and bad habits and their effects in your life. Consider ways to increase the good and decrease the bad. Take some small action steps to eliminate a bad habit. Ask God and others for help. Today is a new beginning.